My name's Alexander Monelli. I'm a documentary filmmaker based in Northeast Pennsylvania. Today is going to be a little bit different. Not reviewing a camera or a lens or a piece of equipment, but I wanted to kind of get more into the art of filmmaking. Now, I know I always come on here and say I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I am. I kind of got swept into documentaries, and I love them. It's my passion. But I still do write scripts, and narrative filmmaking is something I'm very much still a part of and still have a passion for as well. And I'm actually teaching a screenwriting class this fall at a local college in Scranton. And recently I gave a lecture at the Northeast Pennsylvania Film Festival about storytelling and screenwriting. And I recorded it. So I wanted to come here today and just share a few brief clips with you about storytelling and screenwriting. We'll start with 4 tips to help you overcome writer's block if you're in the middle of a script and you're just stuck somewhere. These are kind of things I do. Writer's block is something we all go through.
Today is my first day of writing the new Star Wars series. All I need is an idea.
Then we'll go into 3 ways to enhance your characters and add depth to them, make them feel like a real person and someone that's just engaging to watch. It doesn't mean likable, just someone you want to see where their story goes, what happens to them. I also spoke a little about AI, artificial intelligence, not the movie, not the Steven Spielberg movie. I enjoy that movie, good movie. And I know a lot of people who write are using AI, specifically ChatGPT, to kind of write first drafts or polish things up. And I'll give you my thoughts on that as someone who is very passionate about creativity. Finally, I will go into one of the most famous endings in movie history, and I will explain why that ending works so well. And it might help you write or enhance your own ending in your script. So everything is listed below in the description. If you want to jump around to different timestamps, go ahead. And finally, I will be sharing at the end of the video what my next video will be. And if you're here for gear, that was an accidental rhyme. You'll want to stay tuned for that because my next video will be a camera review. So that will be at the end of the video. All right, let's jump in. So these are just quick little things if you're having writer's block in the middle of your script. Work on multiple scripts or stories at once. I cannot work on one thing at one time. I need, whether I'm editing a video or a film or I'm writing a script, any creative thing, I need multiple at once because you're gonna hit a roadblock. And what happens is, if you're just working on that one thing and you hit a roadblock, you're gonna be tempted to stop or take a break. Like, I'll come back to it tomorrow. Or maybe you don't come back to it tomorrow. So you're gonna be constantly not writing, and that's not what you want. Because creativity is a muscle, it needs to be worked. So work on multiple, that way you can keep bouncing around. And then working on one thing gives you an idea on another. So work on multiple scripts at once. I know you're like, I'm just trying to start one, but like, trust me, you will see more progress if you're working on multiple things at one time. Explain your story out loud to someone. I know writing is a very solitary, I'm in my special room with my coffee kind of thing, but you have to explain it out loud to somebody. Because when you do that, you're gonna start to notice, okay, I rushed through that part because it wasn't that interesting and I could see they were bored, or you're like, that part didn't really make sense. Everything sounds different when you say it out loud than just going over it in your head or your notes. Every stage you can, whether it's just an outline, read it out loud, explain it out loud. Put every story beat on a note card. Now, I know there's the classic, on the wall, we all do maybe you put your story beats on a wall. I think do that, but have them in your hand as well. Have a second copy that you can play with on a table and literally play with, like a puzzle. Just move them around. See what happens if you put this scene at the beginning. What does that do? Does it spark something? Okay? The physical, because a lot of times when you're writing and you're writing a script and you're on your computer, you can't move those things around easily or at all. So this allows that kind of experimentation to just go crazy. And oftentimes you might see, like it'd be more interesting if we started it with that scene, you know. Study paintings and photography for a few reasons. I always tell, especially my students, like if you want to be a cinematographer, study paintings. And, like that's a no-brainer because they have to tell a story in one frame, okay? But I think it could be good for you as writers to study paintings and photography to kind of inspire ideas, right? Because you're seeing, it's like, wow, they told a complete story in one image. I'll show you. This is one of my favorites. This is by Norman Rockwell. This is like, and if you came to my seminar last year, you would have seen this. I love this painting. It's so good. It's so good because there's so many, it's so rich with just what's happening, right? So looking at that, you could get inspired. Clearly this kid, and you can just look by the posture. He's upright. He's looking ahead. And if you look at, he's got more room on that side of the frame than his supposed father, who's got less, right? So he's got more life in front of him. He's got less, okay? He's up, he's down. And you can see by the luggage, he must be going to college. He's going away to college. His dad looks like someone who might work on a farm.
There you go. A first draft. Official first draft.
All right, and any story is not complete without good characters. I kind of spoke about that in my lecture. What's more important, a good story or good characters? And there's really no right answer to that. You kind of need both. You can have great characters and a weak story and it won't work, and vice versa. Here are 3 tips to enhance your character. These are the 3 things that I think. These are what I came up with to create a character. Vulnerability, pretty simple, moments of weakness, right? 2, humanity, how they change behavior in different company and settings, okay? We don't all act the same way in every situation, right? With certain people, we might act more reserved. In other people, we might act more outgoing. In certain scenarios, we may feel like, we're the smart one here. And in other situations, you might feel like, I'm kind of the dumber one, you know? So that difference in behavior adds depth because a lot of times characters become two-dimensional because they're just the same throughout the whole movie, right? In every situation, they're the same. And that's okay if it's like a comedy and they're funny and, you know, like Zach Galifianakis' character in The Hangover or something. Like that's not, we're not looking for depth of, you know, growth in Alan from The Hangover.
It's called a satchel.
And then finally, irony or dramatic irony. Have you heard that phrase before, dramatic irony? Dramatic irony is when you know more than the character. But irony, when a character says one thing and does the opposite. I always love this in movies, and I put this into every story. I love it because it's so true. We all have our beliefs. We all have this is how I feel. I will never do that. And that's what makes a character interesting. If they have a belief, that belief is tested, and especially if they fail that belief. Because then it's like, okay, well, where do they go? That was their identity. You know, irony and dramatic irony are kind of separate things, but dramatic irony is basically when you, as the audience, know more than the character on screen. So that kind of builds tension and drama. You know, you might know something bad is going to happen to them, or they're on their way home from work and you know they're going home to get bad news. So that tension plays on you as the audience. And that's what I'm kind of talking about when I mention dramatic irony. And irony itself in writing is maybe when a character proclaims one thing, but their actions or their internal struggle really feels a different way or suggests the opposite. So it's when you say the opposite of how you actually feel. So I want to talk about one thing just briefly, because I've seen this trend a lot. Our good friend AI, artificial intelligence, and I wrote it AI
because I'm trying to change the trend of it saying A capital I, because I've seen enough headlines saying Al is ruining the world. And so for fellow Als, I'm trying to make the world a better place. So when we write AI from now on, can we do it like this instead of capital A, capital I? Because it looks like Al. I know Al Pacino probably feels the same way as I do.
Okay. Artificial intelligence, AI. I guess it really depends on your definition of AI, right? I'm talking more about generative AI, the kind of AI like ChatGPT or Sora, things that really create something from just a simple prompt. They're actually creating a video. They're actually creating imagery or text. You can consider certain pieces of software, like in Final Cut Pro, it has this voice isolation effect. Is that AI? It might be. It's maybe a lesser form of it. It's not quite, recording dialogue or creating dialogue, but what it does is it goes in and it kind of cleans up the background noise and really enhances the vocals. And I use that sometimes, but that's not really the AI I'm talking about. What I'm talking about in this piece is generative AI.
Now that we have ChatGPT and we have other places where a lot of people will go, tell me an idea of what's going to be a hit, what's going to be that big blockbuster hit that'll get my career going. And sure, you could do that. And I'm sure it'll give you good ideas, and that's great, great. But I think what it does for me, so for someone who loves creativity, I preach it to my daughters, I preach it to everyone I talk to, creativity is like, to me, the most important thing.
AI, when you're using it to create a first draft, really just robs you, the creator, the filmmaker, the storyteller, of that deeper connection with your work. If you're not there to pour that foundation, you're not going to have the relationship with, you're not going to understand the piece as well as you could. You're going to miss out on those connections.
How many people have started writing their script, and while you're writing, you're just like, whoa, that, yeah. And you just keep getting new ideas that you didn't think about when you were outlining or when you were writing down little notes in a journal. When you actually sit down to write the script, all of a sudden these new things emerge and you see new juxtapositions and you see new meaning and new themes and you come up with new characters and you see new problems with your script. So these are things that happen when you actually start writing. And that's why I just feel like if I'm letting AI write a first draft, which I've seen this a lot. I got into a little tiff with a guy because he wrote an article about AI and he let AI write the first draft of his article. And to me, it's like, well, then you're not a writer. If you're just modifying something that a computer wrote, you're not a writer, okay? You're an editor. Ideation and first drafts, I think what happens is you're missing out, you're becoming a little more, that chasm between you and the story widens because you're not there to build that foundation. And you need to understand your story. If you're letting something else do it for you, I just don't think you're going to maximize it the best way possible. And ultimately, it's your own weird, unique style that's going to get your work seen or get people interested in it.
And I'm not so worried about other filmmakers or creative people using and abusing AI. I mean, that's likely going to happen, but I'm more worried about, carpetbaggers, entrepreneurs, tech bros, people who aren't really artists or aren't really interested in filmmaking or aren't really talented at filmmaking. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
The only idea more overused than serial killers is multiple personality. On top of that, you explore the notion that cop and criminal are really two aspects of the same person. See every cop movie ever made for other examples of this. Mom called it psychologically taut.
Endings. If you've seen the movie adaptation, you know.
Wow them in the end. then you've got a hit.
And in 1999, M. Night Shyamalan certainly wowed everyone in the end with the twist at the end of The Sixth Sense.
I see people.
So I want to talk to you about an ending that is one of the most famous endings of all. I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but have we all seen The Sixth Sense, or do we at least all know what happens at the end of The Sixth Sense? Okay, you haven't seen it? Okay, I'm so sorry. A very special thing is about to be ruined for you.
If you've not seen The Sixth Sense, just skip ahead to the end of the video. Don't even watch this part. Don't even watch this part. Go watch the movie. Go watch The Sixth Sense. It's still a great film. But the ending of The Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis's character finds out he is a ghost. He's been dead the whole time.
I think that twist works and surprised so many people and is one of the most famous twists of all time because of the scene right before it. And the scene right before it is this scene, which I'm going to play for you. And if you want to learn how to write, especially if you want to write a short story, this one scene is a complete story. You don't need to see anything else. You understand everything about the characters, what happened, and I will explain why after we watch it, this enhanced the twist ending and made it actually what it became to be.
I'm ready to communicate with you now.
Where is she?
Standing next to my window. Ghosts.
I would never think that about you.
Grandma says hi.
Please
She wanted me to tell you she saw you dance.
Do I make her proud?
So that's the scene right before we find out that Bruce Willis has been a ghost the whole time. And yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was spoiled for me, so we're in good company. First of all, that is probably M. Night Shyamalan's best written work ever. You know, his later movies are kind of whatever, they're okay, but that was like a master class of writing a scene. Like, that could be a short film. You know everything that you need to know. Like, they had a strained relationship. He's like, I'm ready to communicate with you now. She said, I'm sorry I couldn't make it to your play or whatever. And we find out that she had the same experience with her mother. And it just so many things converging in one scene. And it's obviously a very emotional scene. And throughout this film, this kid has this, you know, he's having problems. And so this, M. Night Shyamalan knew what the twist ending was going to be. But what he did was he wanted this to be the climax of his film. And by making this scene so good and working on this scene and treating the twist as just like a superfluous thing, right? The movie didn't hinge on the twist. This was the dramatic resolution of the movie because you're following this little boy. So by doing that, when this scene's over, the audience is kind of like, well, you know, there's a release, okay? You feel like you were just through something, you have this dramatic release. So it's like, oh man, well, he finally connected with his mom after the 2 hours. All right, so we can get our purse and get all of our stuff. What the hell is this? And then all of a sudden they didn't, see, that's the thing, they didn't see a twist coming because they felt like the movie was over. And that's why it succeeded. So by having a clear, dramatic resolution, it gave the story a resolution and a feeling of finality, and then he came in when you didn't expect it and nailed you with that twist. So that's why it works.
All right, next video, I will be reviewing the brand new Canon R50V. So this is their new, it almost looks like a point-and-shoot camera. It's very small. It's an RF mount. Maybe I'll compare it a little to the C80. You can see what you think. For $650, like, I'm dying to see what this camera is like. I'll be getting it tomorrow from Lens Rentals.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
There's no Jerry Sinefeld this week,
And what's the deal?
but hopefully you learned something. And my last piece of advice, never ever call it f***ing content.